Good evening, guys. Welcome to our seminar today on future trends of virtual access, how marketable and sustainable is NFT art, co-organized by CEDARS-General Education and LITE. And I'm Kyle, a Hong Kong U alumnus, and also a co-founder of Blockbuster Brands, a Web3 marketing advisory company. I'm glad to be your host today. So NFT is a newly emerged technology, and it has been quite a buzzword over the last year, and surely it will be this year. So here we have three forward-thinking experts in tech and arts and law industry with us today to share with us the insight today on this topic. Firstly, we have Mr. Heiman Ng. Heiman is a senior arts advisor with more than 10 years of experience in art consulting, curating, and training in Greater China. So prior to joining Digital Art Fair as the director and head of business development, he was the course leader of Christie's Education Asia and head of press of Bohams. He's currently teaching as a part-time lecturer in Hong Kong U and HKU space on art tech and NFT. So next up, we have Mr. Hanjin Tan, familiar face, and Hanjin has starred in hits TV sitcoms and played a supporting role in Bruce, My Brother, which earned him a Hong Kong Film Award in 2011. Above all, he is an award-winning singer, songwriter, album producer. Above all, Hanjin is actively engaging in NFT communities. He is the first to drop the first in the world Chinese music NFT. And Mr. Brian Tang. So Brian is founding executive director of the award-winning interdisciplinary and experiential law, innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship lab at Hong Kong U, Faculty of Law. So Brian is also a managing director of ACIM, board member and founding co-chair of the RegTech Committee of FinTech Association of Hong Kong and co-chair of the steering committee of Asia Pacific Legal Innovation and Technology Association. So Brian has been invited to speak and consult with many well-renowned financial institutions, fintech regulators as well. He's also co-authors of many books. So I know our guests today have prepared a bit to share with us their insights on the NFT. So maybe I'll just pass the mic to Heiman, right, to share with us how the NFT industry goes.
Hi, everyone. This is Heiman. So I've been teaching in Hong Kong U for the past 3 years in a global creative industries department, focusing on the international art market. So this is a course that a new course that I'm teaching for this semester. As you can tell, I'm trying to make it even more relevant in today's world. And the topic is art and luxury market in a new normal. So basically, what I'm trying to do in this course is to tell the just to show the students what's happening in the art world and also in the luxury market when it comes to the NFT, because everyone is talking about NFT now, and all the celebrities are launching their own NFTs now, but many of us are so confused as to what is it happening, why it sold for hundreds of millions of dollars in the auction houses, and people find it very, very confusing. So I think this is part of the reason why Hong Kong, you reach out to me saying whether I can be as one of the insiders in the industry to share what's happening with the students, so that they can get to know more about this technology, without being too speculative about it. So I think 2021 is a very, very important year for everyone in the art world, because this is the year of NFT, and not to mention the record-breaking sale of people. His work sold for $69 million in Christie's auction last year, and then ever since everyone is talking about NFT, and even the brands they're reaching out to us saying if we can help them to make their product NFT and how. So in today's sharing, thanks for having me, Chichong and Kyle and every honorable speakers. I'm going to show you a little bit of what we have experienced in the digital fair. I I think as one of the pioneers in Asia, I think we do have some really interesting stories to tell and to share with you all. So I guess thank you, Brian, and Hanjin. Thank you for coming to the fair, and we truly appreciate your comments and your support for the fair. And the fair was really a big success. It totally out of our expectation. Our initial plan was really to run the fair for 10 days. And then we actually have a plan B for another exhibition in the same venue. But then, due to the overwhelming support from the community, we extended the fair twice. And now we make it like a 23-day event. So we have attracted more than 25,000 people to come, including top-tier media like Bloomberg. So I really like this quote from Bloomberg, like metaverse, NFT, virtual reality. The first edition of Digital Art Fair shows a new generation of artists in Hong Kong. So whatever we are selling or showing in the fair is something new. So undoubtedly, that would be rather uncomfortable, if you like, to some of the people in the traditional art world. So, but our fair is not totally digital. We're trying to strike a balance between the physical art world and the digital art world. So when people talk about NFT, most of them, they have no idea what they're talking about. So our fair would like to show people what is NFT in a physical format, in a physical exhibition format. So whenever people buying the NFT in our fair, for example, it usually comes with a physical artwork, because we want to people have something more tangible to come with the NFT. So this is the kind of key result from our fair. As I mentioned, 25,000 people, 60 million Hong Kong NFTs have been sold in our fair. I think this is a record, especially for the Sotheby's exhibition and auction. And we have different art zones, like for top artists like Andy Warhol and people. We managed to find a very, very good collection from a private collector to showcase the artwork, because we wanted to show the where the international standard is when it comes to NFT and digital art. For example, for this particular piece of Andy Warhol, this is the first ever digital artwork that has ever been made in the world back in the 90s, 1985. So I think historically speaking, I think this is important to showcase to the Hong Kong people what it means by digital art. So we have immersive art experience. Here we wanted to show you a video that we have done for the fair, so that for those who have missed out the fair, you can also get a feeling what it's like. So as you can see, we try to make it fun. We try to make it accessible to people, even to people who have little knowledge of digital art or fine art. They can still come to enjoy, to take selfies, to take photos and post it on Instagram. So we welcome, all kinds of people to come really experience the beauty of digital art. And then we also put a lot of focus on promoting not only the international artists like Andy Warhol and people, but also the Hong Kong artists. So we're trying to provide a platform for them to showcase their digital art. So as a matter of fact, I think Hong Kong has a very, very good art market. We are like the world number 2 art market right now in the world. And then we do have many good digital artists, but they just didn't have the platform to showcase or to even to sell their work on whatever platform. But thanks to NFTs, finally they have a chance to really make use of the technology to showcase their artwork in a way that their copyright can be protected, and then also the career have a better idea in terms of how they continue to grow the career. And then also we have also invited people from around the world, people from Goldman Sachs, from museums, to come and share what they think about the NFT, because I think education is such a big thing when it comes to NFT, because I think, as I said, there are many misunderstanding, confusion out there. And 99% of people, when they talk about NFT, it's all about speculation. It's all about, 炒炒買賣. It's all about the market. But indeed, for us, what we trying to do is to promote an idea which we call NFT fine art. We want people to truly appreciate it, the beauty of it, the artistic value of it, and they can collect something that they can hold on instead of flipping in the auction market in a year also. So we also have put a lot of focus on the virtual world, because everyone is talking about metaverse now. Last week I just had a lecture for my students. I invited people from Sandbox to share what is really happening in the metaverse. Why all the big companies like New World, like Sun Honggai, like PwC, like Kuji, Adidas, why they are buying a land on Sandbox, and what they are trying to do there. And so this is what we just discussed. Thanks to the media support, I think it really went viral on the social media. And this is also a very good example how we benefit our partners. Samsung is such a big partner in our exhibition, because when it comes to digital art, the technical support is very important, and that's why we truly appreciate the support from Samsung. And this is the kind of promo video that they did. I think would be good to show you. So as the fair organizer, what we need to do is to curate the show in a way that, which is engaging for the people, especially the younger generation, because, we find it very, very hard to attract the younger audience to go to the museums, to go to the gallery exhibitions and now. And that's why I think digital art and also NFT would be something that we can, further promote to better engage the younger generation. And what's interesting here, you can see the click views here. More than 700,000 people clicked on this, so you can truly see the demand out there for the NFTs and also digital art. So we are very honored to have all partners from different industries. We have Genesis Sport from the crypto world, we have Firewall from the gaming world, and we have Sotheby's, we have Samsung, we have Time Magazine. So basically what I'm trying to show here is NFT is already there, and to us, I think it's gonna stay here no matter what. So I think our role is really to unleash the greatness of this new technology, and to do our best to work with some of the best talents in the art market in Hong Kong, and to see how we can further promote their work on an international platform. So our next plan is, on top of Hong Kong, we're trying to expand the fair to other countries like UK, like the States, like Singapore. So this is exactly what we're trying to do to promote Asian or even Hong Kong digital artists on a global setting. So I'm very glad to see the development when it comes to digital art and NFT art over the past year or so in Hong Kong or in Asia. I think we need to do more, because I think what we are consuming when it comes to NFT news, it mostly comes from the States. I don't think it's gonna sustainable. I think we need to build more good content ourselves here, so as to inspire the younger generation or the future generation of the artists in Asia here. So I think that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Heiman, for your sharing. It's truly insightful. I know all of you may have a lot of questions in mind already, but allow us to finish all the presentation, and then we'll open up the floor for questions. Next up, we have Hanjin to share with us his industry insights. Hanjin, please.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. Let me check everything. Okay, everything's good. So basically, I got into NFTs because I was pissed off at the way no one's doing anything for the music market. When I talk about when I mean the music market, is the market of the industry of people making the core product for the music industry, who are the musicians. Most of us think of musicians as the singers themselves, which is not true. Most singers do not make their own music. Most singers rely on musicians to make their music for them, and they release their music, and they get famous, and they start their celebrity careers. And as Web2 became a real tech driver for change in the past 20 years, and that change killed the CD market. That change killed the MP3 market, and that change put streaming where it is today. So what that means in a nutshell is, for musicians, the people who make the music, not the people who come out and sing the music at concerts and shoot TV series and shoot movies instead of putting out concerts and putting out music, is that the main income for musicians, which is music production, has fallen by 90%. People are just not putting out records anymore. And even if they put out records, they put out a single a year. 2, no concerts because of COVID. So that's down by about 90%. Merch and side projects, even the celebrity singers are not putting out music anymore. So there really isn't much room for side projects unless for musicians, unless you're a KOL. And royalty streams from music products, there really isn't much, because in streaming right now, 0.7% of the musicians and take 90% of the income from streaming platforms. That means 99.3% get the remaining 10%. And in America, the biggest market in the world, 99.884% of registered professional musicians make income from music below the poverty line. How fucking sad is that? Okay, so I thought NFTs could be a solution. Basically, in April last year, it was a simple case of be brave, start releasing your work in a market where that has not developed. And therefore, you will get first mover advantage, and we could start a trend. I did my first few drops to encourage that. My first drop was a demo. My second drop was a demo for Ethereum. My second drop was a demo for BSC. Each drop got more successful than the previous ones. I think because of the hype that was the NFT hype in the middle of last year. And my second drop probably sold out so quickly within a minute, 539 BNB, simply because it was the second big drop in BSC space. I'm not sure if I could repeat that again. My third drop is the most meaningful drop right now. It's a demonstration of how any artist or any musician or graphic artist or creator or even non-coding business, Web2 business, can release an NFT collection on OpenSea. I put a link in the chat. Is it there? Yeah, I put a link in the chat, and you guys can go see It's called Hamsters. It was released without promotion to my fan base only, because they were very unhappy that they couldn't get the fuck is an NFT, the second drop, because that went out in less than a minute. I think they were just not quick enough. And so I made it for them. And now I'm developing this collection. So the 54 that you see on OpenSea, if you click the link, are going to be OG status NFTs in the beta launch of, or the main launch of the Hamsters NFT collection. This will probably be Asia's first NFT only music label. And the music that this label releases will only be released via NFTs. It will develop into an ecosystem where there will be tokenomics, and the tokenomics will be backed by the NFTs. Owners of the NFTs will claim tokens. No, there's no other way to claim tokens. And the tokens will be used to create more value for the music that is released through this NFT only record label. So you can, if you can, the Hamsters will be the first round. I am projecting somewhere by the end of April, maybe. So pick up the OG, whoever owns the OG Hamsters will get an OG status, and they will be able to receive, like, say, a multiple, like, say, 2x of what other people can claim in terms of the tokenomics and other perks as well, like music airdrops and like things like that. And I think I have to, for this year, I'm going to be refocusing my efforts to demonstrating for NFTs for music instead of NFTs for NFTs, because NFTs has become so saturated. It's become too much of a buzzword. It's become kind of like a bad word. And everyone is releasing NFTs. It is no longer a case of bravery, because if you want to release an NFT, there are so many SDK opportunities online. Just search NFT creator or NFT creation service, or go onto Fiverr or go onto Upwork, and you'll find someone who will do it for you at a very affordable price. So it's still not too late to jump in, but don't think of jumping in as a means to profit. Think of jumping in as a means to learn and creating community in preparation for what's to come in the next bull run. And that will probably be in a year and a half. So I still say the same thing. Do it. Do it for yourself. Do it for the people around you, and do it for the hope of a more equitable Web3. Web2 didn't treat us too well, unless you were in tech. Yeah.
Thank you, Hanjin. Definitely agree on the, especially on the last point. Next up, we have Brian to share with us on his insight. Brian, please.
Great. So thanks so very much for having me here. And it's a bit daunting. I mean, I'm behind, a series of very sexy digital art and a cutting edge artist, and here I am, a lawyer, right, presenting. So I'm going to be, so let me perhaps share my slide in relation. I thought given that this was an undergraduate course, I actually went more 101 in relation to the space. And so for those that know a little bit more about this, humor me, but hopefully you'll learn something from it, and would love to form this as a basis for discussion later on as part of the panel. So by way of background, as was mentioned earlier on, I'm Brian. My background is in law. And, I was an IPO lawyer. I did IPOs, and then when I left the law and went to fintech, this thing called ICOs happened. And so I didn't look for it, but it found me. And now that the new trend is in the NFTs. So which I think is a fascinating way to, I've been a big supporter of crowdfunding and ways in which we can support artists and creators. So that's where I come from. So talking to Hanjin's point, right? So currently musicians' revenues from streaming, do you know how many streams you need just to make $1? Right, and that, as Hanjin said, that's primarily to the front person, right? The front singer. That doesn't even break it down to all the others. So, and that was all that, and it's all been changing given the modality of the medium of the music. So a lot of musicians make money from merchandise. right? So one T-shirt is the equivalent of 8,000 streams. So merch actually forms a significant way in which musicians make money, right? And so that's kind of the part of the reality. And as Hanjin mentioned, it's the front end, they're all the layers in between that prevent all the other players within the space not to actually receive that. Similarly, in the art world, you've got, printed art has been around for quite a while. But so what we're talking about here is things that can be replicated, right? So whether in the older style of etchings, lithographs, screen prints, or woodcuts, you've had the concept of, original art versus the signed and numbered prints. So how many prints are there? So supply and demand. The bigger the number, potentially there's lesser value as one of the factors, as opposed to a smaller number. Is it a limited edition or is it an open number? Is there a chop or a signature? Is it while the artist is alive or dead? All of these matter to the artist and how the artist kind of can sell these things. Similarly, there has always been a market for autograph books, for CDs. It was kind of funny. I mean, I'm a bit of a geek. I do have signed books. Whenever I get a book, if I can get the author to sign it, I actually like to, because that's actually a personal connection, whether there's a valuation aspect or not. Maybe yes, maybe no. I was interested to find online, some people said, for records, don't get the artist to sign because it depreciates the value of the record. But anyway, but now it's digital, right? So what does that mean? How do we get these signed? And then very, very significantly, artists don't benefit from secondary sales. So for the longest time, this has been the case. So, if you're a very famous artist, you're an artist, more often than not, you were starving while you're alive. As soon as you die, your value of your art goes up. And then, by the way, if your estate sells it once, that's fine. But afterwards, artist doesn't get anything, right? So there've been laws that have been tried to address this, but it has not addressed that in the past. So to raise a kind of more personal example, so I'm a kind of a comic geek. I used to like comic books, right? So when I was younger, there was this series called Light and Darkness War. It's about the Vietnam War, and which is ironic now because they were talking about reflecting of humans going into war, and now of course unfortunately we're going into war again, seemingly in Europe, and hopefully it doesn't spread further and that's resolved soon. But so many years ago I bought this piece, right? So this is a original artwork signed by the artist, but really it really is from a comic book. So the comic book is printed. There are lots of prints for that, but there's only one artwork, right? Original artwork, and it does sell for there's an auction price. People do sell and buy these things. So there is a market for these pieces. But so sometimes people say, so why would I buy an NFT of a JPEG on MP3 or MP4 that I can just download from the internet for free? Why do I need to pay for that? Why is it worth so much, right? So NFTs can benefit artists and fans, right? So as you've heard earlier on, the artists can connect directly with the fans, the collectors, the patrons, and vice versa. So if you're a fan, you can collect with them. It can benefit the team behind the art. So as Hanjin was saying, so it's not just the front person that gets it. You can actually program the smart contract so that everybody gets a cut, right? And then the artist can actually sell more than just the original. You can sell merchandise, you sell experiences. So the exclusivity of connecting with an artist like Hanjin, is fantastic for his fans, right? Artists can benefit, and importantly, they can benefit from royalties from secondary sales. So if they sell it again, the artist can benefit from it. That's great, right? It fosters creativity between the physical and the digital, as Heiman was talking about. So now art becomes a little bit more interesting, and artists can be more creative around that. You can get autographs from the artist, right? So, and that allows for a personal connection with the art, and then potential upside and valuation. And then, you can potentially fractionalize the ownership as well. So if you really want to, the conventional, I can't, alone, I can't own a Picasso, but maybe a whole bunch of us, we can come together, we can buy and bid for a Picasso, right? I can own a part of a Picasso. So Yatsu from Animoca in our own Hong Kong has famously stated, Bitcoin is a store of value, but he thinks NFTs are a store of culture, which I think is very significant for how we potentially think about how NFTs can work. And at LITE Lab, we actually place our students to work with Hong Kong startups. And these are two of the startups that we've worked with, whether it's Coinbase, which is based in Idendron, right? And they're working on Project Arc, which is, again, NFTs with the WWF, or Articoin, which is also doing really interesting things in relation to NFT artwork as well. So these are great things happening in Hong Kong. And as I mentioned, with art, suddenly you can do the physical and the NFT digital. So if you haven't seen this, so Damien Hirst is a very famous artist. He's now got a new piece that's coming out. It's 10,000 hand-printed works. Okay, they're colored dots. I don't know modern art, but there you go. They're colored individual handwritten dots. And he will really, this is called the currency. There are 10,000 of these. He's going to release it and as NFTs, and the owners have got 1-year option. So they can either, after the year, decide if they still hold it, the original, or they can choose to trade it, and they only keep the NFT, right? So again, it creates an interesting dynamic from a collector's point of view, and it'll be an interesting example, experiment, because curious, at the end of 1 year, will there be more NFTs or physical art? Who are the investors in this, right? Who are the buyers of this that will appreciate this? Another interesting example, a group bought a Banksy piece called The Morons for $95,000, and The Morons actually was a satire of an art auction. So what did they do? They burned the piece on Twitter, and they converted that video onto an NFT, and they sold it for much more than what they bought it for. So what is that? Welcome to the world of art. It's very interesting. So should Banksy actually get the benefits of that? Are they allowed to do that from a copyright point of view? Yet to be seen, yet to be seen. So NFTs are great, but what does it not buy you, right? So it's a collectible. You get the artifact that's signed, but you don't have the right to reproduce or publicly exhibit, right? So when I get a Hanjin piece, right, I can't, play it and charge people for it and all this kind of stuff, right? So unless he gives me a license to do that, right? Because that's that he owns that, ultimately, the IP behind it. So one of the famous recent examples was this group of crypto folk. If you're a fan of Dune, I'm a long-term fan, right? So recently Dune was remade into a movie, but a very famous director called Jodorowsky tried to do this. Dune is a famously very difficult book and very difficult movie to film. And he had a fantastic idea. He had created this fantastic thing. And there's even a movie about his movie that never got built. But he had this great book that was created, all the facts behind it, and it was auctioned, right? So there is a limited series, right? So coming back to Prince, a limited series. Sotheby's estimated 25 to 35,000 euro, went for 2.6 million euro. By a crypto group, and they said we bought it for 2.6. We're going to make it public. We're going to make an animated limited series, and we're going to have derivative works for the community. This was kind of derided because a lot of people said, "Well, hang on, you didn't understand. You don't have the right to do that, right? The estate of Frank Herbert actually owns this IP." So they kind of had to backtrack from that a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what they ultimately do with this and whether they get their return, if you like, from the $2.6 million of getting this NFT. So what else doesn't it get? There's no guarantee of authenticity if you buy it in the secondary markets. So unfortunately, right, OpenSea said 80% of NFTs minted are fake or plagiarized or spam. And a lot of that has to do with bots, and we'll get to that as well, right? And then you've got this website called HitPiece that then basically use a bot to kind of scrape, get all these songs, put it on. They put the names of the artists, and then and made them into NFTs to sell until they got a huge outcry because basically they just copied all of this and put the names on an NFT, right? So because it is now online, it's actually easier to copy, right? It's easier to actually and a lot of artists are actually being ripped off because their stuff is being NFT'd, even though they didn't consent to it, right? So what is the so part of it is the role of the marketplaces, because a lot of these, like Hanjin has to put his on a marketplace to sell, right? And some of the famous marketplaces like OpenSea has a concept of lazy minting and free gas. Now, if you're an NFT producer, it sounds great. Doesn't cost you anything, right? You can mint it and you can put it on. It doesn't cost you anything until you sell it. So you just put lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff there. Some more valuable than others, right? But when they put stuff there, you have other issues. So I'm an IPO guy, so I'm used to marketplaces. How do you run these marketplaces? So now, because there was a bug in one of the sales whereby instead of putting, the cost of $1 million, somebody put 10,000 and they bought it. And so that became a legal sale. So that became a problem. The insider trading, and a lot of that, because people knew what was coming on board. So Hanjin's point, how come, the fans couldn't buy it, right? Because somebody inside knew about it, right? So part of it is because of the market structures, right? There's lazy minting, which sounds great from a creator point of view. The gas is the amount of that you have to pay for the blockchain usage. But it means that people are just throwing stuff on there that may or may not be, beneficial, but more, you can say that allows for creativity and more art to be put out there. But you can also say it allows for putting more junk, but also stealing stuff and put it on, right? And if you're a fan of art, right, DeviantArt is a great marketplace for actually where artists and the artists have been complaining because there have been bots that just go through and steal a whole bunch of stuff, scrape it off, and then mint it and put it on NFTs sites. And so DeviantArt have their own bot that actually tries to give warnings. But if you're an artist, you will get a warning to say somebody has posted your art piece on OpenSea. So then your obligations, you can just send a cease and desist letter to get them to pull it down, and then maybe they will, maybe they won't, right? So this was a report recently where they said like 80,000 alerts were just sent, and artists are now pulling their work from DeviantArt to say, look, this is not worth it because I'm just shutting down my accounts because NFTs are stealing it from us, right? So part of the other thing that happens with NFTs are the dominance of what they call PFPs, right? So picture file projects. So picture file projects are these famous ones whereby you have one picture and you have different derivatives. I guess maybe I don't know Hanjin, whether you're going to hamsters on this, right? But so and there's nothing wrong with it. People get really attached to it, but it ends up being quite speculative and like as well. And a lot of the thing has to do with the sense of the communities, because when you have celebrities owning one and then they tout it, it's like celebrities owning ICOs and cryptocurrency at the time they tout it online. Now they're getting sued by the SEC. We'll see what happens later on, right? But so if they start touting it to pump the price up, and then they have the communities that have a VIP club. Again, nothing wrong with that at all, but it's just how the marketplace ends up working. And there's really interesting thing happening with the NFT marketplaces. So I'll give you a couple examples. So famous one is CryptoPunks. I don't know whether many of you know, but the CryptoPunks that you all see is version number 2. Version number 1 came out and there was a flaw in it, in the smart contract, right? And so therefore, the organizers, Lava Labs, took down version number 1 and then issued version number 2. But version number 1 is still floating around the place. And some people say it's a historic NFT and it's still okay. But then one of the founders of Lava Labs had a whole bunch of version number 1, and then he sold it because so suddenly the marketplace is like, hang on, which is the official cyberpunks? And so as an artist, right? So remember, these artists are now, as Hanjin says, it's not a singular artist. There's a team behind it, right? It's almost a company. So suddenly you say, well, hang on, this community? Why are you punks now? What's this version 1, version 2 thing? You're messing up the marketplace, and so there's a lot of criticism against how the Lava Labs are actually managing that particular community. So here's another example of another community. So Pudgy Penguins. So Pudgy Penguins, they were created. People love them. They're so cute, right? And get they like a lot. But then the founders of it, if you like, the artists behind it, they said, you know what? We'll sell the whole thing. We'll sell the community. Right, and then that had people up in arms. Say, well, how, you're meant to build the community. How can you sell a whole community and the shell behind it, right? So now people want to fork. They either fighting against them or they want to fork it. So those crypto, with Ethereum and the like, and Bitcoin, you forked it, you use the code and you create. So in this case, they created a wrap so that you have a different version of Pudgy Penguin around with a different community. So weird, interesting things are happening where community is concerned. The other thing is, the way to think about NFTs is if you want to buy an NFT, you need to buy it only with crypto, right? So the way to think about crypto is it's like a foreign exchange, right? As you may know, the Russian ruble just went down 30%, right? But cryptocurrency goes up and down like this, like all the time. So if you happen to buy, because to buy, you need to buy ETH, right? So if you bought ETH at a high price, now as the ETH price goes down, the value of what you bought actually went down, right? Not because of anything else, but because of the value of the exchange rate of what you sent. So it adds the complexity of those transactions. At the same time, you have what, Linkin Park's Mike Shinoda kind of calls, the opportunistic jerked, crooked jerk. So you hope that the artist, right, will say that when he says it's a limited edition only, it's a limited edition, and he's not going to like do a whole bunch more, right? So you have to trust that the artist doesn't mess up the market in that way. Similarly, you've heard me talk about bots, right? So now there are all these bots, right? So, and these bots are actually ruining a lot of the pricing that Hanjin was kind of talking about. So whether it's scalper bots or spinner bots or spoofing bots, a lot of them, what they're trying to do is try to play with the pricing, right? And so when you want to buy it even on the primary market, that's why fans can't even buy it because they send the bots in through, or even in the secondary market, and a lot of things are happening there. Similarly with wash trading. So Chain Analysis is a famous crypto and analytics firm, and they found significant wash trading for NFTs. So what does that mean? It means that, if Kyle and I own a CryptoPunk number 375, and then we sell it to each other, right? And so but we're not really selling. We just have a scheme so that the price value goes up and up and up, right? So that's how they find that a lot of what's actually happening is maybe that's what's behind some of the price rises. Similarly, it's recently the U.S. Treasury just announced a report to say that NFT market is vulnerable to money laundering and terrorist financing. So it'll be interesting to see, because of what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, what the new regulations will be, because people are concerned that why the value of this goes up is because crooks are buying these at a high price from bad money, right? And using that system to wash it. So again, this has been a concern for a long time in the art space and the antiquity space, but now the regulators are looking at this from the crypto NFT space as well. And then, as was hinted at early on by Heiman, the carbon footprint of NFTs is a concern by a lot of people as well. So a lot of, there are lots of controversy about how much the output really is whenever you buy an NFT, and there are lots of numbers that people throw here and there. And there are lots of solutions that people are trying, which is like, look, maybe we don't use proof of work, use other consensus models, which are actually more environmentally friendly. We use cleaner energy, so we use more renewables. Maybe we use carbon offsets. So it is something that the crypto community is trying to address, the environmental impact and the climate impact of crypto in general. And then, although notwithstanding the title of this talk today, which talks about virtual assets, by the Financial Action Task Force, technically right now, NFTs do not count as virtual assets. Because if you're actually a virtual asset under that, there are certain obligations one needs to have in terms of client IDing who comes in and out. But they say it may be a virtual asset if it's used for payment or investment purposes. So this is where the more speculative it becomes, the more regulation maybe will end up coming in. Could it be deemed to be a security the same way that some other crypto is? What are its tax implications if you buy these things? So all of these are not fully understood. And then as was hinted at earlier on as well, you really need a fan base to be quite successful with NFTs. And a lot of the recommendations of successful NFT launches are similar to successful crowdfunding launches. So query, does this really help with democratizing the creator base of artists? Or is it really mainly those with fan bases and intermediaries that help sell it as well? So I think, this is a very early stage. It's an evolving stage. You're speaking to some of the champion pioneers here who are trying and finding its way out. But hopefully, as we develop art NFTs, we can develop in a way that protects and favors creators in our environment over the speculators, frauds, thieves, money launderers, and terrorists. With that, I end my little presentation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian. So you have walked us through some basic ideas and the pros and cons of NFT. So if the students or us want to learn properly more about NFT, so is there any advice you can give to the floor?
Like they say in the research space, it's do your own research, right? So part of this is there is a lot of hype around it. The number of my students who said, "Oh, I'm now interning in an NFT, startup," right? So I think do your own research in terms of what it is you're involved in. As a creator, I think there are lots of fantastic opportunities. I think as a if you're interested in getting into space, beware because of the volatility. It's like crypto. You can make money fast, but you can lose money really fast too, right? So don't think of that as an investment, in my view, right? But do your research and try it. Sometimes you need to try it out to know what it's about. So as students, I think I'd encourage all of you to read widely, try it out, but please don't put your tuition money into it, right? And don't quit your university time, because this time is NFTs. 2 years ago was ICOs. These trends come, right? And these are fads as these evolve, but these are very, very interesting times.
Yeah. So perhaps we can now open up the floor to questions. So if any one of you have a question for our speakers, feel free to raise here, or you can also leave your questions to the chat room.
Can I start with a question? Again, I love this area because it's so new. We're all learning. So Hanjin, what's an OG?
Original gangster. Basically, I just want to echo to everything. Okay, finish your question.
No, that was basically it. You said, you can join as an OG, and I was like, okay, what's an OG? Yeah, so
OG just means early adopter.
Right.
And if you're in crypto, if you're an early adopter, you get perks.
Yes.
If at beta, a regular holder receives 1x perks, an OG can get 1.5, 2x perks. If there is a conference, the OG can get one-on-one access to the speakers or celebrities. Yeah, I liked how you're full on full on academic bird's eye view eagle scope the whole landscape, everything from Damon Hirst to the PFPs, and I just want to add on to it until the next real question comes on. I think I see a question, so I'll be brief. The space is changing super fast, and it changes from week to week. When you talk about when guys were talking about CryptoPunks, Bored Apes was hitting 1 ETH floor. When guys were talking about Bored Apes, you Cool Cats and all that were hitting 1 ETH floors. When you were talking about forking and wrapped assets, you cannot not talk about Mooncats or kitties, and those are super wrapped assets. And when you talk about really built out NFT projects that are really companies, you cannot not talk about CryptoPunks. But there is a new kind of NFT organization that is supposedly decentralized, like Neo Tokyo Netizens, Neo Tokyo Citizens, or M-First, which stands for motherfuckers, and these projects are not launched with a goal to build any utility. It is the community that built the utility. And another project that did something similar but it is not an NFT project. It's an ICO project. It's called Fluffy Token. Just have a look for learning's sake. It's fun because it was created as a spoof, and then as a do not touch these coins, they are scams. Look, it is so easy to make one. I made one in a day, and then it did a pump, and of course it dumped, and but it's holding, and which is really weird. It's got its own Discord, and it's got its own Twitter, and it's got its own community, and guys saying like, okay, we should do this with the fluff token, we should turn it into a DAO, blah blah blah, and these are all done without the creator being involved at all. So let's go to the first question.
Thank you.
Awesome
Thank you.
sharings. I'm taking notes on all the ones. I'll definitely check them out. Hanjin, thanks.
Yeah, so we got a question from the floor. So a student asked, why can we just buy NFT with currencies like USD?
Why can't we buy NFT with currencies like USD?
Yeah, like fiat money.
You can. You used to cannot, but now you can, because there are many NFT platforms that now have fiat on ramping gateways, like Stripe, or like at Nifty Gateway. It's the back end of Gemini. They use different protocols. They're basically different tech to our tech companies that provide the tech for you to buy, for you to convert USD directly into the crypto that is required to buy that NFT that you want to buy. The limiting factor is still compliance, because there are many countries that have different laws about how you can or cannot convert fiat into crypto.
That's a great summary, because yes, now the technology, one of the questions with adoption was how difficult it was, but now there's so many front ends that make it really easy to buy. So yes, you can. I think just to add to that a little bit is that the way, my point was to think about it from foreign exchange, right? So if you were buying something in ruble, so then you have, your fiat today will be buying a certain amount of currency based on the time that you buy, but that currency that you're buying before that gets converted to buy the NFT actually goes up and down. So that was my other point about that.
Right. So another question from the floor. So the student asking about a specific project called Freelanders. So it says it's one quite popular project recently. I have seen it as well. It's like top one project on OpenSea. So what factors do you guys think that make it successful? Or maybe I put it this way, like what factors do you think a successful NFT project contain?
Anyone want to take that?
I'm just looking up Freelanders now. But Hanjin, I think you have
I was trying to
Heiman, yes.
look at their Twitter as well. So definitely it's not something that that we're trying to promote. As I said, what we're trying to do in the fair is to really work with the traditional artists and help them to have a better transition from the traditional art world to the NFT world. And for things like CryptoPunk or the Ape or the Freelanders, I appreciate the kind of market value for these kind of projects. But I think before you make a decision on whether you will collect or invest on it, make sure that you will see a sustainable roadmap for this kind of project. And to be a successful, NFT projects, that I think there are many variables, but the most important thing that you should take into consideration is to who minted the NFTs, and then what kind of community they're trying to target, and then you really need to see the reselling value of the NFT. For example, like many people bought the NFTs from Jay Chou or from Shongyu, but they just find it, or even Edison Chen's NFT, but they find out that the reselling value has a big problem, because there's literally no secondary market there, because they have minted too many. So the quantity is also very important. So but if you just collecting it for fun, or as Brian said, you just do it, a trial and error basis, then just do it, because I think the best way to learn is really to just do it, and to talk to the people from the industry, and or even talk to the artists directly to see what makes them do the NFT project, and is there any core value behind the project, or is that just just another commercial project? So that's what I always told the students. I think for art, I think what we're looking for is, like back in the Renaissance art, why we are still talking about Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael, because this is what we call classical art. Why we are still talking about Beethoven or Mozart, right? Because this is classical music, and what we're trying to do is to find out the next classical NFTs in the market. And I think, as many people said, 99% of the NFTs out there in the market right now will be gone, like in a year or two. But I think, as Hanjin and Brian just said, the market is so new. I think people are trying very hard to learn and by launching their own NFT. So I think as the audience, as the art collector, what you really need to do is to do your own research and make sure that you know what you're buying. You're buying not from what you hear. That's very important. You're not buying with your ear, but you're buying with your eyes, or you're buying with your heart. So please buy the NFTs that truly move you, just like a movie, just like a book. Don't judge it by the cover. Read it through and make sure that this is in line with what you truly believe in. Yeah, this is my advice to you.
Yeah, Heiman, you just mentioned we should look at the roadmaps and utilities and stuff. So and you also mentioned Twitter. So is there any other channels of NFT project that we need to pay attention to?
I think Instagram is still most of a platform that most of the artists would use. I think recently there has been a really successful NFT project done by Aura Research. They launched a new NFT platform called Fan Club, FWEN. And Sotheby's, I just checked on Instagram, they are doing a charity show based on the fan club figure. So I think you can have a look at that. I think as a case study, it's very interesting to see what fan club has been doing, because I think they have the worldwide record-breaking number of people joining their Discord recently. I think 200,000 people joining in a week time also. So it's pretty crazy. So I think I think we can take it as a reference how they are trying to use the power of the celebrity, cause Jay Chou to further promote the platform and the NFTs. So I think they're really smart on that. But whether it is a sustainable project, we can wait and see.
Thank you. So
if I can quickly add to that just a little bit. So the first thing is something that people, Heiman kind of hinted at this, what they tell collectors is buy what you love, right? So don't look at the, so link to that. So from an art point of view, if you like it a lot, if you look at it, and even if the price goes up and down, you still don't mind looking at it, you still don't mind listening to it, and you feel that, that's always great. But that being said, even from an investor point of view, right? There are people who are quant investors. They don't care what it is, but if the technical analysis is it's going up, they will buy. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's going up. And then there are fundamental investors that actually look at the underlying asset value, underlying what it is, and all this kind of stuff. So even with investing, and this shouldn't be investing, but even with investing, there are different approaches to this. But if you're looking at it really from an art point of view, buy what you love.
Yeah, it sounds like bullshit. Like who would buy something that they don't love? But indeed, 99% of the people in the market, they're buying it because they saw someone else is buying it. So be honest to yourself. I think it's very important.
Yeah. So another question from the floor. So some brands are very big on acquisition of lands on sandbox and stuff. So what do you think it implies to their future business model? I think this has something to do with metaverse, right?
Yeah, I I had a really deep conversation with someone from Sandbox over the past few weeks, and I really learned a lot from them. And I finally got a better understanding of what people are trying to do out there. So just imagine, people, especially the Gen Z, they're looking for something new. They won't buy something anymore because of they see the advertisement in the MTR station. So in order to better engage this kind of target audience, I think the brand has to come up with something fun, something engaging, something entertaining, something interactive with this kind of new kind of audience. So I think metaverse will be the next station for this kind of new audience. The reason being is, as the Oculus goggles become more popular among the general public, I think people would, when we stay home, we'll no longer watching the Netflix, or we won't just browsing the internet. We will go to the metaverse to go online shopping, to interact with people who share the common interest with us. So I think metaverse will be the next big thing, but I think it's going to take 3 to 5 years to truly unleash the greatness of it. But I think we are getting there. And I saw the promo video that New World Developments did, and I think Adrian has been really, really smart in terms of putting all the brands that under his group, like Castify, like New World Development, like K11, and he kind of created a whole new world in the metaverse so that people can literally do the online shopping there. And sky is limit in the metaverse because you can create anything you want, literally. And all you need is just a very good game technician and graphic designer to make things happen for you. So as I told my students, if you're really interested in pursuing career in a metaverse or in digital art, well, I think the gaming aspect of it is such a great future prospect in it. So yeah, and for Sandbox, as one of the leaders in the metaverse, alongside with the Decentraland, for example, I think that will be like a huge advertising revenue there for them and for the brands as well.
Hey, can I just pick off the questions really quickly, because there are a lot of questions to see.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll just give quick answers, and then you guys can like come in with your theses or your sea of knowledge. I just want to make sure everyone's like addressed. Threelanders, yes, it's popular. If you keep checking on all the main platforms, don't just look at OpenSea. Look at Looks Rare, look at Magic Eden, and if you feel like it, look around at Random Earth, the Luna platform. Look at the Tezos platform, object.com, and keep looking at those. Do the same thing you do in OpenSea. Check the rankings, see what's on top. Those that are on top are doing something right. Now you want to know, if you want to know what are the things that make them hot, it could be anything. It could be nothing. It could be pure luck. There are some projects that just pumped purely on social tags. There are projects that pump purely on one celebrity mention. And there are projects that were done so well. So like Mikaverse was done pretty well, but Mikaverse bombed because of an API hack after their public mint. They were the first collection with a 200,000 Discord following pre-launch. And the project that followed right after that was called DMT. Oh my God, something by DMT, Metasaurus by DMT. They were really well done. And they roped in the BAYC and MAYC communities. I got to, and they bombed just before public launch, right after whitelist mint, because of a hacker named Hassan, who hacked in excess of 500 pieces, which is like almost 30% of the pre-mint, and that totally destroyed the market. What Hassan did was he came out and he said, "Look, I am the one who destroyed your project. Ha ha ha! I destroyed it with this bot. I am selling it for 2 ETH per bot, and you can buy it at you can buy there 100 pieces. He sold out faster than the NFT project itself, and the NFT project never took off afterwards. That project had perfect stats all around. You look at the Twitter. Okay, today, don't look at the IG. Don't bother about the Medium. Used to be TTDM, but now don't bother about Telegram. Just look at Twitter and look at Discord. If Discord is hot, if Twitter is hot, then it's a good sign. And if you see that they have utility that they want, that they say they're going to make, see how believable they are. Look at the creators, see if they're doxed. If they're doxed, check their past projects. This is just, but remember, these are just markers. These do not tell you if the project will make it or not. There are many other factors that decide if the project makes it or not. And as I answered the other questions below, you get the details. What does NFT famous brands who buy land on Sandbox, what does this imply for their future business models? Nothing. The only thing you should look at in terms of metaverse is Facebook and Hive by HTC. They are the only ones who can create VR, AR metaverses, basically virtual worlds where you can do things in it, buy and sell, touch people, poke people, interact with people and companies. The other metaverse outside of that is pure crypto. And when we talk about pure crypto, the leaders are Decentraland, which is already an MVP. You can do things, you can build things, you can sell things, you can touch people, you can scope people, you can make friends. Sandbox, they are not even at Alpha 2 yet. I have a Sandbox game and I will launch in Alpha 3. And there are 3 other projects in the metaverse that you need to look out for if you're interested in metaverse projects. Red Fox, which is touted by Raoul Pal, the legendary investor, and the other 2 that have been around forever, Crypto Voxels and Somnium Space. But what does it mean for their future business models? It doesn't mean anything until they start selling. What will they sell? It really depends on the trend. If we hit crypto nuclear winter in 3 months' time, they will do nothing because they will lose money if they do anything. So a guy from Indonesia listed his selfies. Oh, you're talking about the Ghazali guy. What is the factors to his success? Viral. It's kind of like, why did Lo Shi Oi Dai Mai become a hit song? No one knows, but it was really cute. And it's actually very hard to make. I mean, if you want to make a couple thousand, 1 photo a day, that's a lot of days. So if you want a project that that is meaningful, you could spend 3 years making a project and it will probably track. It will probably won't go to shit. But look at Ghazali's floor price. It kind of went to shit. Not as shit as when he launched it. Another mirror project was Irene Dao, but she's a cute girl. So like, who doesn't like cute girls? I'm learning so much from the session today. I'm really interested in Web3 in general. It's definitely something we need to learn and do a lot of studying. Yes, DYOR, TLDR, too long didn't read the fucker. May I ask where to get authoritative information NFT and crypto? There is none, because it's not what's that thing? It's not regulated. And do you have recommendations on websites, YouTube channels, community? It's all over the internet. Just go on YouTube and search what crypto, and then search which crypto you want. Go on coinmarketcap.com and search the top 10 cryptos and search everyone, and there will be a list of stuff there for you to read. It's too much, and you will never run out of information. Is there a lot of bullshit? Yes, there is a lot, but if you're looking at the top 20 currencies, there's very little bullshit. I need to know we're not in an era where everyone is, why now we're in an era where everyone is making, no, not everyone is making NFTs. Very few people are making NFTs, just a lot more than 6 months ago. Are there any obstacles? Yes, of course there are obstacles, because you need the code. If you want to make a meaningful NFT, if not, you're just like plastering a JPEG or an audio, or a JPEG and an audio or MP4 onto some platform like Luxor or OpenSea. Found this online. Yes, that's right. You can read that. Classic NFTs. No one will know what a classic NFT is. Just like back then when Beethoven was in his heyday, he might not be even having a good time. There might have been 10 Beethovens, but he's the one that people remember. Just like when Whitney Houston was born in 1984, there were probably 5 other Whitney Houstons who sang as well as her and who probably as cute as her, but just not as connected or as lucky as her. History tells the stories that people want to remember. It is not the truth. Now, I want to finish this whole thing by saying a very, very important part. There is an NFT is crypto. It is a big part of crypto because it lives on the blockchain. That means it follows the rules of crypto and also follows the culture of crypto. There is a culture there is cultural relevance to everything that you do in the crypto space. Does not mean that if you have a utility and your art is cute, your NFT will work. It does not mean that if your project is, you have a lot of devs and you're really gonna build something meaningful, your token is gonna moon. No, it does not mean that. It is just like stonks, which is stocks. It's a Xin Mei Bei Choi. It's Miss Hong Kong. Who do people like the best? That one's gonna moon. What happens after that, we don't know. The good part of the story is the thing to take home is if there are a lot of scams, that means the market is growing. So it's a good sign. If you cannot find relevant information quickly and easily, that could mean that this is blue ocean. If you're a creator or you're an investor, this is when you want to get in. If you're a trader, you want to get in now to do your 100 to 1000x. If you're a creator, you want to get in now so that you can build your alpha community that will serve you well in 3 to 5 years time. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Hanjin, for taking all the questions. So is there any question from the floor?
That was a tour de force, Hanjin, so fantastic. Who wants to do that one? In terms of the bubble. So look, I think what I would briefly add to that, I mean, it's one of these, as you've heard from Hanjin, it can be a rabbit hole. Okay, once you go down the rabbit hole, there's so many different ways, things and terminology and things are happening all the time. So I think I would encourage you, if you're genuinely interested, to go into it. Don't think of it as a quick buck thing, right? And again, what interested me about this particular panel is about as a creator, how can you contribute? How can you benefit from this space as a creator? So maybe think about it from a longer term, especially since you all are still younger and earlier in your career stages.
So a student actually just DM me saying he's interested in working in the NFT or arts auction area. So what are the types of jobs that exist and how can students be prepared for them?
I don't know. Just DM me on LinkedIn, Instagram. Let's see how we can help. We're hiring like for my company. I have already hired some people from a Hong Kong U class, so they're very keen to learn. I think it's a good sign. Like people are genuinely interested in the NFTs and the digital art and also the metaverse, and I think it's about creating hope for the next generation. I think this is one of the very few industries in Hong Kong that I truly see the real potential, apart from the finance or the other major industry. I think the art world will continue to boom for sure, and I think NFT will continue to be a big part of the art world and the luxury world. So I think it's the best time to learn. Whether it's a bubble or not, it doesn't really matter. If it's not a bubble, we won't even have this seminar today, because the reason why we are talking about it is people. We see the great demand of it, right? And people, you see the hunger, and you see they want more knowledge, they want more information. But as you said, as one of the students said, there are too much misinformation out there. But I think it's a good sign. So it only means that you have to do your own homework. And I really appreciate the the organizer of the day, and I truly enjoyed the sharing of Hanjin and Brian as well. And thank you, Kyle and Chichong.
If I can add a little bit to that, so the statistics with just startups is kind of like 90 or 95% of startups fail, right? So if you're in any startup, you know, those are the odds that you have. They fail within the first second year, okay? So as artists, right, I don't know the stats, but it's even, you know, again, we can name the classics, we can name a few, but as you've heard earlier on, a lot of artists cannot actually make a living wage. They actually have to do other things. So that's why, you know, so even it's the higher echelon that they actually can do that for a living. So now we hope that these platforms allow for that to grow our culture, to grow more people who want to enter into that space. But just be aware going in, this is not a quick, you know, rich, easy to do thing. This has been the support of the arts has been an age old, since the dawn of civilization. You've needed patrons to actually support the arts. Michelangelo, Leonardo, they had rich dukes that paid them. Who paid them to do it, right? You know, so that they didn't have to go and be a mason and the like, so that he could actually carve. So the support of the arts has always been a complex but important part of civilization. And so hopefully these platforms can actually grow some of that and grow our culture as well.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, guys. I think this is coming to the end of this webinar. So thank you, Brian, thank you, Hanjin, and thank you, Heiman, for joining us today. So, and everyone, please feel free to follow the HKU CEDARS social media on the comment section. So yeah, so thank you guys for joining us. Thank you.